Hello, Facebook. This is Matt Dubin, Washington personal injury attorney, going live for our first FAQ Friday. I'm actually working from home today, so I'm doing this on my phone. Apologize if it gets a little shaky. I'm trying to hold it as steady as I can. So first I want to give credit to my friend Greg Herman in Texas for this great idea of FAQ Fridays. We're going to try and do this every Friday so that if you have any questions about personal injury law, the insurance claims process, car accidents, or anything really related to the field, I want to answer your questions the best that I can. So go ahead and follow us online on Facebook with Law Offices of Matthew Dubin. You can follow us in our Everett location or our Seattle location or both. And post your questions and we'll address them every Friday. So let's get right to it. Actually, before I address the questions, let me just say it's been really hot in Seattle. All Washington State is covered with smoke from the wildfires in Canada. The air quality here is really bad. So if you can, stay indoors, preferably with air conditioning, but particularly if you're vulnerable, if you're very old or very young or you have respiratory conditions, it's a really good time to stay inside right now because that air quality is at historic lows and it really can cause serious health problems. So just be aware of that and take care. So now let's get right to the questions. The first one is from Jody, and let's take a look. Jody's question was, is PIP or UIM insurance necessary? It's a great question, and let me just give a little bit of background. PIP is PIP, stands for Personal Injury Protection. UIM stands for Underinsured Motorist Coverage, and the equivalent is UM, which is Uninsured Motorist Coverage. These are both first-party coverages that you have with your own car insurance. The short answer is yes, PIP and UIM are necessary. But let me just tell you briefly why. So PIP, or Personal Injury Protection, will pay for all accident-related reasonable medical treatment if you're involved in an accident. This is important because you're not going to get money from the at-fault person's insurance until you settle your case. But you need to get your bills paid now as you go. PIP coverage will provide payment for those. It's different from health insurance because there's no copay, there's no deductible, there's no networks, you don't need referrals. It's only if you're in an accident, they'll pay for that treatment. And at the end of your case, it will result in a better net recovery for you. As far as the uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, that's really important too. Even though Washington state law requires everyone to have a minimum of $25,000 in liability coverage, 20% of the drivers on the road have no insurance at all. If you get hit by one of these uninsured motorists, you're out of luck unless you have uninsured motorist coverage. And that uninsured will act just as if it was the uninsured person's insurance. And that way you'll be able to get a recovery not just for your medical bills and lost income, but also for your pain and suffering and other non-economic damages. So yes, you should have PIP coverage and uninsured motorist coverage, and you should make sure you have as much of that coverage as you can afford. An agent might try and tell you that you don't need that much or you don't need it at all. Don't believe that. You want to max out your PIP and UIM. Believe me, if you're in an accident with an uninsured or underinsured person, you'll be glad you did. Okay, the next question was from Michelle. And Michelle wanted to know, are pedestrians always right? And another way I hear that question is, do pedestrians always have the right of way? And surprisingly, I get that question a lot. And you might think, yes, pedestrians always have the right of way, and that is simply not true. Pedestrians, just like drivers, have a duty to be careful. The duty is to exercise reasonable care for your own safety. Now, if you're in a crosswalk and you have the light, there's a presumption that you are in the right, that you're right. So yes, the pedestrian's always right. However, If you see a car barreling towards the crosswalk and you just step in front of them just because you have a light, you may share some responsibility for that. You've got a duty to exercise care for your own safety. And that means you can't make stupid decisions. For lack of a better term, you can't put yourself unreasonably in danger. Of course, we see other situations where pedestrians dart out from in between parked cars into traffic mid-block, sometimes at night, sometimes wearing dark clothes. A pedestrian has a duty to exercise reasonable care for their own safety. So there are definitely circumstances where a pedestrian will be responsible, in whole or in part, for causing an accident, even if it results in a serious injury to them. So again, the short answer is no, pedestrians aren't always right. And as a pedestrian, you really need to be careful and watch out for your own safety. The last question I got is from Ryan. And thanks for your question, Ryan. It was, will the Mariners make the playoffs this year? And I don't have a crystal ball, but I know there's a lot of baseball left to be played. The Mariners are only 2.5 games out of the wild card right now, behind Kansas City. And I think they're also behind Tampa. And they've got 3 more games against Kansas City this weekend. So I would say anytime you're into August and the team is over 500, they certainly have got a shot. This is an exciting young team to watch. I'd like to see Felix do a little bit better in the stretch. But yeah, I think the Mariners have a reasonably good shot. And let's see what they can do against Kansas City this weekend. And I certainly would feel better about it if they can take at least 2 out of the 4 and maybe 3 out of 4, but they can start with a win tonight. So I'm going to go out on a limb, Ryan, and say, yes, the Mariners make the playoffs this year. And so that's the FAQ Friday for today. Do I need PIP and UIM? Yes, you do. Are pedestrians always right? No, they are not always right. And will the Mariners make the playoffs? I'm going to say, yes, they will. So thanks a lot to everybody who asked questions. That's the first FAQ Friday, but you can count on it every Friday going forward. So post your questions on our Facebook page, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. From me and everybody with the law offices of Matthew Dubin, be safe out there, and I'll see you next time. Bye.